Don't go too close, man. They jump. One of the most poisonous snakes we have in the Amazon. This can kill people, man.
That's what my guide told me just a few seconds after I walked over that exact step. But before we talk about my near-death experience, we need to talk about how I ended up in the Peruvian Amazon in the first place. I quit my job over a year ago now, and I'm retelling the tales from all the cities that I've been to, all the stories that I've accumulated along the way. This is the sixth major city that I stopped at, starting from Buenos Aires, ending up here in the Peruvian Amazon. So flashback, I was sitting there in my Buenos Aires Airbnb, the first city that I had chosen after leaving the US and starting my international travels, and I really didn't have a game plan. Like, to be honest, no plan. So I was sitting there with a pen and paper trying to sketch out a map of South America and figure out where it was that I wanted to go, what I wanted to do, try to plan out an itinerary. And I was going from Buenos Aires to Santiago to Cusco to Lima, and I was working my way up the map going back towards the United States, and I saw a city that popped up on Google Maps called Iquitos, and it was interesting to me that it showed on the map of Google Maps like it was a big city, but I'd never heard of it. So I Googled it, and it turns out it's one of the biggest cities in the world that you can't drive to, so you can only fly to it, and it's an entry point that a lot of people use to get to the Amazon rainforest. And so I was like, I really didn't think about going to the Amazon rainforest before that exact moment. I did a quick Google search, maybe like an hour's worth of research, maybe less, and decided that sounds amazing, I'm going to do it. No plans, no prior thoughts, none of the right gear, no preparations, probably not even the right vaccines, and I was like, let's do it. Booked it right there. On a whim, booked a trip there called Become an Amazonian, which I also find funny because I had literally just quit my job in Seattle at Amazon. So I left one Amazonian life to become an Amazonian in another way. And I just find that really ironic. It felt like the stars aligned and I had to do it. Getting to the lodge was part of the adventure in itself. So you fly into Iquitos. I flew in from Lima, and it's about a 4-hour journey in total to get you from the airport to the lodge itself. The first 2 hours are in a van, and the van was rough. It had seen better days. No AC, windows down, the shocks were worn out 5 years ago at that point. 2 hours we had to drive, and it felt like being a bobblehead in a rally car, like bouncing around on the roads there. And along the way, we had to make a couple of stops because I don't know if I told you this, but I was not prepared, no gear. So we had to stop so I could get mosquito spray. I literally didn't even have mosquito spray because I couldn't fly with it. I only had a carry-on. So I got mosquito spray and I got a fresh coconut because it was super hot. So I had a coconut for the next 2 hours. And you're riding along, and then we get to this random viewpoint. And you can see the Amazon River, and there's a big trail to go down. And then you walk down, I don't know, maybe 7 minutes or so. A hike downhill, and you're walking into the Amazon River, which I found so cool. I mean, my shoes were filling up with sand every step I took, but I just found it so cool that I was walking and my shoes were filling with the sand from the freaking Amazon River. Heck yeah, I didn't care at all. I was like, this is awesome. And then the boat ride itself, pretty uneventful. The river is a river at the end of the day. It's just a big, wide area. In fact, the area we were in was quite narrow. It was only about 0.7 kilometers wide. And at some points, it's much, much wider, like 48 kilometers wide. So we were on a very narrow point. And it was also really dry when we were there, so the river was even more down. So yeah, the boat ride in went pretty quickly. The only thing that I found interesting on this part was that I learned about the Amazonian stoplight system. Let me teach you something, because they taught me. If you're driving the boat in the tributary and you see a bird coming at you from upstream, you need to pull over to the side and stop. Why? Because that means another boat is coming upstream at you. This is how they knew that they needed to pull over, because the tributaries are basically one-way roads and you have to pull over so you don't get into a crash. And every time they saw a bird coming at them, they were like, oh, gotta pull over, slow down. And every time they were right. So if you're ever in the tributaries, know the Amazonian stoplight system runs by birds. But after a few hours of going on the river and stopping for the stoplights and a couple of times to unstick the propellers because there's water lettuce everywhere covering the surface, we made it to the lodge. As it turns out, I was the only guest in the lodge that day, which was very strange. And that actually continued for the whole trip. There was one other couple that showed up, but pretty much the whole time I was there, it was like a private resort for me. And first day, didn't have time to do much. I arrived kind of in the late afternoon, so I just settled in, put my bag away, laid in a hammock, passing the time, just being amazed that I was in the Amazon rainforest. And that evening is the first Welcome to the Jungle walk.
where you just go on a short 45-minute or so walk around the lodge, just looking at whatever you can see nearby. And despite the unassuming name, this walk actually delivered fantastic value. And this is where I actually saw 3 of the first 7 monkey species that I saw in total. And one of them I saw before the walk really even got started. So you'll see here a brown capuchin monkey stealing fruit. So they would show up every day to this tree right behind the lodge, look around. You see this one like looking around at the camera, at me, filming him before he steals the fruit. And they just steal the fruit right off the tree, no shame. And then they run up the tree and try to hide and eat their fruit. And then I saw 2 more monkeys on this walk. One of them was just this, I think it's called an owl monkey. I'm not really sure. Maybe it's called a night monkey. It's a nocturnal monkey. You can tell by looking at its eyes. Its eyes are massive. And it was sitting up there in the tree, just kind of looking out. I think it's probably guarding its family in a hole in the tree. And then the 3rd monkey we saw that day was the cutest one of all time. It was the Pygmy Marmoset, and it's a pocket-sized monkey. Think Labubu sized. And look at this thing. It's so cute. It was really fast though, so I got pretty lucky that I was able to get a good video of it. But yeah, that was really cool to see. So all in all, first day, great success. I was super happy. I went to bed sweating, but I was pumped to be in the Amazon, seeing all the stuff that I was seeing. And my adventures did not stop there. So as a preface, I didn't really know what I was signing up for when I did this tour. They kind of give like a rough outline of things you could do, but there was no direct explanation of all the things that we actually were going to do. So every day was a bit of a mystery to me. We did 3 different types of fishing activities. The first one, I'll get straight to the point, you're probably wondering about. We caught piranhas. I caught, I don't know, maybe 10 different piranhas. It's quite simple actually to catch a piranha. So here's what we would do. We would ask the chef for any scraps that they had from cooking. We'd put them in a little Tupperware container. You get a stick. Literally, it's a cane pole, like a stick with a string on it, a fishing line, and a hook. That's it. You put the scrap of food on the hook and you slap it into the water. And the slapping is important because piranhas are attracted to the noise, the commotion, and they'll go and swarm your hook. And the piranhas were actually pretty hard to catch because they like to nibble at the meat instead of just bite the whole thing at once. So they take little tears off at a time and they swim away. So it's really hard to actually time it just right to get one on the hook and get it out of the water. But we caught a bunch nonetheless. And actually, I also ate a piranha, which maybe you didn't expect that you could eat them, but you can. And they're not bad at all. There's not a ton of meat on them because we caught really small ones. But now I can say I've eaten piranha. And it's pretty good. The second fishing trip that we did was a bit more of a adventure, a bit more of a trek, a lot more work to go actually do it. This one we had to go on a 45-minute boat ride or so upstream, up the Yanayaku River, the tributary that we were on. We got off of the boat and then we did another 2 hours on foot hiking deeper and deeper and deeper into the jungle. And the fun thing that we saw along the way on this one, well, fun is subjective, but right along the path we were walking on in the mud was a gigantic big jungle cat paw print. I'm not sure if it was a jaguar or a puma or whatever it was, but there was a jungle cat right on the same trail we were walking on. So if that doesn't make you paranoid, I don't know what will. And then we continued our walk anyways. So we walked into the jungle covered in swarms of mosquitoes. My guides, I don't know why they don't do it, but they didn't wear mosquito spray. I guess they're just fine with it. I was covering myself in mosquito spray. It didn't matter because my guides were walking in front of me without it. So there was just a swarm of mosquitoes between all of us, and I was getting absolutely wrecked by mosquitoes. When you're walking, it's not that bad, but as soon as you stop, they all catch up to you, and you can see like a pile of them just go straight onto your back all at one time. It's terrible. I hate mosquitoes. But the hike was good anyways, so despite the mosquitoes, despite the jungle cat, we made it to the pond, and the Oscar fish were actually so easy to catch compared to the piranhas. They were basically jumping onto the hook. We found grubs in little fruits. We put the grub on a hook, put the hook in the water, and then within like 2 seconds, the Oscar fish bites on, and then you pull it out. And these actually bite the whole hook, so it was much easier to catch them. You can see I caught a couple here, and I even got lucky enough to catch me catching a fish on video. Here we have an Oscar in the Amazon, caught with a cane pole and a grub. Pretty cool. And the last fishing adventure that we went on caught me and my guides by surprise. We were actually on a sloth walk, walking around the jungle, looking up in the trees, trying to find a sloth, and we heard splashing. Now keep in mind where we're walking in the rainy season is like under 10 feet of water, 3 meters of water.
So it's not unheard of that there's little pools around there, but given how dry the dry season was at the time I was there, it was a bit weird. So we heard splashing and we're looking at each other like, what's that? Of course, we go investigate. And we see a small, muddy, barely any water in it puddle. And my guides, they saw that and they were like, oh, hell yeah. They got excited and I still didn't know why. And then they rushed down there, they grabbed their machetes, and they told me that those fish, they're going to eat them. Like, that's a really good dinner for them. So you should know that in the Amazon, almost all of their diet consists of just fish. So an easy fish meal like this, they're going to take the opportunity to get themselves an easy dinner. But yeah, they walk down there with their machetes, and then the local villager goes down there with the machete and goes bonk, and just starts bonking fish on the head and throwing them to the side. And they told me, like, come on, your turn, you got to go get one. So they let me go down there with the machete, and then I bonked the fish on the head and threw him to the side. I have a video of it here. It's actually so crazy. And apparently also they saw an electric eel in there, so I'm glad I didn't accidentally reach in there and grab an electric eel. But yeah, that was crazy. I had no idea that I would ever bonk a fish on the head with a machete in the Amazon. And I didn't eat the fish. They advised me that it wasn't wise for someone without the right bacteria in their stomach to handle that kind of food, because the fish it's in stagnant water. So they recommended I didn't eat it, so I have no idea if it was delicious, but they had all of the fish that night, and they were super happy with it. So I guess they were tasty. And it wasn't all just aquatic adventures in the Amazon. We also saw plenty of animals on the land during our jungle walks. And I mentioned earlier that I saw 3 types of monkeys already in this story, but there's 4 more that I need to add to the list. So let me just go through all 7 species that I saw in total. So I saw the brown capuchin monkey, the pygmy monkey, the nocturnal monkey, I saw red titi monkeys, I saw the squirrel monkeys, I saw the tamarin monkey, and I saw the red howler monkeys. The red howler monkeys, I actually have a crazy clip of. You need to listen to how they sound. I was right underneath them. Check this out. So those sounded like a monster when you're walking around in the jungle. They sound absolutely insane. But the tamarin monkey was actually my favorite, and that was the only one that I didn't get a good video of because our sighting of it was so brief. But I'll show you a picture of what they look like. They were really cool looking to see with their little mustache. And apart from monkeys, we also saw plenty of other tree-dwelling creatures. One of them I already kind of mentioned, and that's sloths. And we had one sloth sighting where we got actually pretty lucky because we saw a sloth on the ground, and they only come down from the canopy about once a week to take a dump. Like, they just come down to poop. So we caught a rare sighting of a sloth coming down to poop, and we got really up close to it, and of course you keep your distance, but I was able to get some good pictures of it and some good video clips of it, so I'll show you those right now. And we saw plenty of other sloths too, but honestly, I have no idea how they get spotted, because we'll be going down the tributary, just cruising along in the boat, and my guide will be like, oh, there's a sloth. And I look over, and I just see a tree. But faintly at the very top, there's a small blob, and if you get the binoculars out, sure enough, there's a sloth there. I tried to get one video of one of these instances, and it's just filmed on my phone, so it's not the best quality, but you can see how they spot these little dots in the trees. It's crazy. Another animal that we saw cruising along in the boat was, I think, probably a crowd favorite, and that's the capybara. So we saw a capybara 2 different times, one in the daytime, one in the nighttime, and these animals are so cool because they simply just do not care that you're there at all. They're just going to sit there, they're going to eat their little grass on the side and be completely unbothered. So those were really cool to see. And actually the one at night was very interesting for me because I learned, you'll see in this video I have of it, you'll see moths flying around it, and I have a couple of pictures where the moths are going at its eyes. Apparently these moths survive by like drinking the tears from the capybara's eyes, which I thought was crazy. Like, that is, I've never even heard of that. So getting to see the moths attack the eyes, I mean, I feel kind of bad for the capybara, but the Amazon is a wild place. The other thing that I got to see, another quick sighting that I didn't get a chance to get my camera out and take a picture of it or take a video of it, was a giant river otter. We were going down the river, the tributary, and we heard like a ka-tunk, 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 ka-tunk. So we quickly look and we see a big river otter. I mean, they're called giant river otters, of course, but like, it's surprising to see that they're actually so giant. So we saw a giant river otter running into the water, and we only got to see it for a few seconds because it just ran to the edge and then ducked under all those water lilies on the side. But that was very cool to see. And maybe if I go back, I'll get a chance to get a better picture of it with my camera next time. And from the land-dwelling creatures in the Amazon, we transition to the flying creatures, of which there are many. So there's all kinds of different birds there, ranging from this really cool Jesus bird, which walks on the water, to gigantic macaws that look like they belong on a pirate's shoulder, to thousands, and I mean thousands of cormorants. You'll see them flying over your head all day as the sun starts to go down, as it gets close to sunset, in big formations of them. We also saw this really cool tiger heron, which I thought had a really interesting pattern on its feathers. We saw plenty of colorful kingfishers that were really tiny and hard to get a picture of, but I got a couple of pictures of them here. There's also, in the Amazon, some famous butterflies, and I saw a few of them. They're really hard to get a good video of or a good picture of. So I have one brief clip of like the famous blue butterfly. I'll put the name of it here and a better picture of what it's supposed to look like. So you can see I saw it, but I was barely able to film it. And then I got another better picture of this blue butterfly. So a lot of really cool insects like this dragonfly that landed on my finger. There's also really annoying ones. So on the boat, there was also flying ants. So we would just be driving along and then ants would fly and land on you and bite you. And those I didn't like very much, but a lot of things in the Amazon want to bite you and sting you and hurt you, including many of the creatures that come out at night. So almost every day we would do a night walk, and at night, the creepy crawlies definitely come out. On one walk, one of our first night walks, I think we saw maybe 4 or 5 different tarantulas. And these things are massive. Oh, yeah. They're everywhere. They're on trees. They're on rocks. We also saw a lot of frogs. I saw this giant frog right here, which I think is called a smoky toad. I'm not entirely sure, but it was massive. It was like as big as my hand, if not bigger. Right outside my room, I saw this tree frog hanging out with me, croaking all night. And on the nighttime river cruises, I saw so many caimans. And this is one of the fun parts of the story for me. What we would do is we'd go out on the boat. My guides would have a flashlight. I wish I had one, but I didn't because I didn't travel with one. But they'd be shining the flashlight along the river like this, and you just wait to see something shine back at you. And in the rivers, if you see bright orange eyes coming at you from the water, those are the eyes of a caiman. And we saw so many that eventually I just asked, like, could I catch one? And I was kind of just half joking. My guide was like, yeah, you can actually catch one. And I was like, wait, for real? Like, I'm going to catch a... He's like, yeah, we'll go catch a caiman. So we pulled up to one. We're shining the light on it. We could see the eyes, and we get up close, and I go to reach over the edge, and first caiman I tried to grab was huge, way too big, definitely bigger than me. If I would have reached in there and grabbed it, I would have got rolled like a rag doll in the water.
Ha! I've got you!
Luckily, we did see another smaller baby caiman near the edge of the river that we pulled up on, and they're not very shy, the small ones. So we shine the light on it, and they're just kind of hanging out there in the water, and we pulled up close, and I just whoosh, reached out there and grabbed it right behind the back of the head, and it didn't really put up much of a fight, so all I had to do was just firmly grab it with my hand, and then I was holding a caiman. All right, so we caught a caiman with my hand in the Amazon River. And we're about to let this little guy back in the water. Ciao. Didn't have it on my bingo card that I'd be catching a caiman with my bare hands when I booked this trip in Buenos Aires. So that was super cool. On that same boat ride, after we had gotten back from catching the caiman with my hands, the night was over. You know, the tour was done, and I was thinking, you know, I'm just going to go back to my room now, take a shower, cool off, lay down. I'm riding the adrenaline high of just catching a caiman with my hands, so it was super cool. And like I mentioned, I didn't have a flashlight, so I'm just walking up. My guides are behind me, cleaning up the boat, making sure everything's ready for tomorrow. And I'm walking up, and I almost get to the door of the lodge when I hear from behind me, oh, shit! And I was like, well, that's never a good thing. So I turn around, I'm like, what's going on? My guide's like, come back, but don't come back the way you came. So I'm walking down the stairs, and he's like, go off of the stairs, go that way to the side. So I go off of the side in the grass to walk down and around. And this is where he shows me the clip you see at the start of the video. A fer-de-lance, one of the deadliest snakes in the Amazon, if not the world, sitting right under the step that I had literally just walked up. So that one was a close call. I nearly got unalived by a snake there, because the only thing I'm wearing is really thin rubber boots that I'm pretty sure that fang would just go right through it. And when you're that far out in the Amazon, if you're not lucky enough to have an anti-venom on hand right there, that's it. Sayonara. Luckily, I'm alive to tell the tale. So all in all, my half-baked idea to go to the Amazon rainforest ended up being a fantastic idea. I had such a good time, definitely one of the highlights of my life so far. One of the coolest places I've ever been, so wild, so different to what I'm used to. And I got to see so many creatures with my own eyes I never thought I'd ever see, and so much that I didn't even get to capture because I was mostly filming with my phone. As you can tell in this video, a lot of it was in the vertical format. I wasn't planning on making a video about it, so many amazing moments just went uncaptured and only live in my memory. So I'm kind of bummed that I didn't capture everything, but at least I have the memories about it, and it was such a good experience. I'll probably end up going back at some point in time, hopefully with better preparation, better gear, and I can capture the moments a bit better. But if you're thinking about going on an Amazonian adventure, do it. You don't even need to be that well prepared. Just go out there and do it. I had such a good time. I highly recommend it to anyone who's thinking about it. And my wild adventures don't stop in the Amazon rainforest because the story continues. So I go from the Amazon rainforest to Quito, Ecuador, to Bogota, Colombia, to Medellin, back to Texas, and then I go on to Bangkok, to Da Nang, Vietnam, to Hanoi, and now I'm currently in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And I'm going to be telling you the stories from all of those different places, so you're not going to want to miss it. So be sure, if you're interested in these type of videos, if you watched it this far, subscribe so you're along for the ride on the next one. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch it this far, and hope to see you around. Peace.